Good to have you coming down the road with us. 46, that's the number to keep in mind. We've got a 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden. So you want the job, you run for the job, you do everything you can to get the job, and then you find yourself with the job. What are you going to do with that job? I don't know any president that's kept every campaign promise that they've made. They just don't. They find it, they can't. Oftentimes they can't. They think they can. They think that they're the supreme ruler, but, it just isn't in the cards because there's a check and balance to government. So it's going to be interesting to see some of the things that Joe Biden wants to do that he really doesn't have a chance to do. But there are certain things that he can do by executive order. The president signed just a blizzard of executive orders yesterday, a couple of which, well, one in particular that just came to my attention, getting back into the Paris Accord and making sure that we're part of that group of nations that are doing exactly what we can do to go forward when it comes to our climate, when it comes to our Earth. Now, many of you think that global warming is wrong, that it's all a fallacy and it's just not true. And even if it is true, here in North Dakota, we're an energy-producing state, and we shouldn't have to adhere to that. People want what we have. They want the energy we provide. A lot of that's true, except for the fact that it's all a lie. It isn't a lie. Go look at what the scientists have said when it comes to global warming. I think things are going to change on their own. Unfortunately, I grew up in a North Dakota that had a good, strong coal industry, good union jobs, jobs where men and women could go and take a lot of pride in. And unfortunately, those jobs are going away. And it's the industry, it's private industry that's taking those jobs away. And the reason those jobs are going away is because they know in 10, 20, 30 years, people are not going to want the power that's generated by coal. Their bill may go up. In fact, their bill will go up. But they don't want the power that's generated by coal long term. I think at times they don't know what their other power is generated by. For example, I think oftentimes the people that don't want us mining copper, they don't take a real good look at what helps generate energy through the wind towers, for example. I think that those individuals who don't want us drilling for oil don't realize that one of the offshoots that we're getting in North Dakota is natural gas, a good, clean burning source of energy. So not only that, but I don't think they wake up in the morning and look at what's running the pickup or the car, which is gasoline. There are electric cars that are going to come out, or that are already out, and some of you have them. But they're not all there yet. And you know what? They will be as time goes on, because that industry is going to change. But they're not there yet. And so to sit there and claim that we don't have to have a good, strong oil industry takes us back to where we were when I was a young man, which is dependent on foreign oil, which is a real national security issue. So we need a strong oil patch, and that's something we have in North Dakota. Now, the 10-day directives that the president is sending out there, policies that the GOP had before all of this. The Democrats pushed for very sweeping change, and they have the majority in the Senate, majority in the House. They're going to have the ability to make sure there is some change. I still struggle with why the United States Senate has the filibuster rule. Personally, I think it's unconstitutional. I didn't like it when Mitch McConnell and others used that nuclear option to get through Supreme Court justices, but I also understood it. And I'm fairly convinced, in fact, I'm positively convinced, that if I were in Mitch McConnell's shoes, I would have done exactly the same thing. And I think that President Biden and Majority Leader Schumer need to do that, need to understand that is a tool that they can use. He's repealed the travel bans. Obviously, I mentioned he's rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement. He's urged Americans to don those face coverings for another 100 days. The other thing is he's asked agencies to extend moratoriums on evictions and on federal student loan payments, recognizing that many of those individuals who rent are unemployed or their income has gone down drastically because of COVID. So those are real. Those are real problems. He also appointed a lot of people. And I think he set a really good tone for those appointees. I think he sounds like the boss here. In fact, he is the boss. But listen to the tone he set.
But I'm not joking when I say this. If you're ever working with me and I hear you treat another colleague with disrespect, talk down to someone, I promise you I will fire you on the spot. On the spot. No ifs, ands, or buts. Everybody is entitled to be treated with decency and dignity. That's been missing in a big way the last 4 years.
I think it has been missing. I think he's right. I think that condescending attitude that I saw a lot of press secretaries have under the Trump administration is something we don't need anymore. Jen Psaki is the new press secretary for President Biden. I saw her first press conference. I saw how honest she was with reporters. And I doubt that the reporters were going around drinking champagne afterwards saying, boy, she's going to be so friendly all the time. There's information that she's going to know that she's not going to give them. But the one thing she's not going to do is she's not going to lie to them. And I think that that's really important. Remember how the Trump administration started? They sent their press secretary out to the public to say that they had the largest crowd ever at the inaugural. They didn't. It wasn't even close. And you know what? There are pictures of that. There are photos that show it wasn't even close. There weren't that many people there. So you just get the job. You just put the right hand up to God. You swear to uphold the Constitution. Not that this is constitutional. Not that lying about your crowd is breaking any level of the Constitution. In fact, I think that everybody knew that Donald Trump had a history of lying. That doesn't change the fact that he began his administration with a lie. And it just, it's what I've been saying on this show for quite some time now. When people show you who they are, believe them. Believe them. So Sean Spicer, the press secretary for the president, because nobody said no to this man. When they did say no to this man, they got fired. They got showed the door. Ask General Mattis, for example, defense secretary. It was either walk out, throw him the keys, or get fired. There was no, oh boy, we can work together because we disagree. So you don't start your presidency with a lie. Jen Psaki is someone that they're going to be able to trust. They're going to be able to ask questions, and it's going to be done in a professional manner. And I think that's what you just saw about the clip that Joe Biden had. I think that that's what you just saw that really makes it something that you can take pride in when it comes to the people whose salary you're paying. Now, one other thing I want to make sure I get a chance to visit with you about before I tell you my long-range plan, which President Biden hasn't called me for yet, but maybe he will. Maybe it'll be today. I don't know. But, when you look at the inaugural, we're never going to have what was the normal inaugural after last night. We're not. I was at one. I was at Barack Obama's first one, which, by the way, was the largest attended inaugural ever. I was at that inauguration, and afterwards, yes, I'm a Democrat. You write a check, you go in a room, and the president comes in it, and there's about 8 of these rooms. I was in the agriculture one, which was basically full of rural people, which is where I wanted to be. And the president and his wife come in, they dance, they wave, they talk a little bit, and they leave. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that way again. And thank God it's not. I think you're going to see virtual inaugurations. What they showed last night, and if you didn't see it, go on some of the websites, go on some of the news websites and click on and check it out because you owe it to yourself too. I want the soundtrack. That's what I want. If you look at the artists that performed, you're going to see the top tier of artists that this country has to perform. And so I just loved it. It didn't mean you had to be in Washington to be part of it. The interaction was fabulous. The people that they honored was fabulous. And the job that those artists did was fabulous. And I think you're going to see that from now on. The things that I would tell President Biden, let me give you 3 right off the bat. Be honest. Keep that honesty. Do what you did yesterday. But you know what? Follow up. It's one thing to scare them. It's one thing to look them in the eye and say, listen, if you do this, you're going to get fired on the spot. But somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to do it. And when they do, keep your word. Keep your word and fire them. Also, minimum wage. I would raise minimum wage. I have the power now at the Senate and the House to raise minimum wage. The minimum wage would be raised. And that money that you raise the minimum wage with, because, you know, a high tide raises all boats. You know what that does? That gets money out there. I would get the $2,000 to them. That was proposed by President Trump and by Nancy Pelosi. And you know what they're going to do with it? They're going to spend it. And we'll get some money moving in this economy. And then there's one thing that's going to shock you that I would do. I think that the Justice Department under the Trump administration was corrupted by the president himself. I think that they were told they had to do certain things, and they were treated as though they worked for one individual and one individual only. The Attorney General Barr set that bar. And so I'd fire them all. I would. They've all got good deputies. Look at North Dakota, for example. We've got Drew Wrigley. We've got Chris Myers. Chris can do the job. He's done it before. He was acting U.S. attorney underneath the Obama administration. So get rid of them. Get rid of them. They work for the United States government, but it is a political appointment. It is. And so the Biden administration owes nothing to Drew Wrigley. Nothing. And I would take care of that within the first couple days. When we come back, Dr. Nagpal, he is Sanford's infectious disease specialist. And we're going to get a chance to talk to him about the variants of COVID-19 right after this as we go down the road.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Heroes and Icons is now Cozy TV. Don't worry, you'll still get your favorite Beck News programming without changing the channel. Real people, real news, Beck News.
Well, you're still in the rig with us, so let's take it down the road just a little bit more. There's a lot of people concerned when it comes to COVID about the mutations, and we're able and lucky enough to get Dr. Avish Nagpal with us. Dr. Nagpal, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you, Joel. Nice to be here.
He's a Sanford infectious disease specialist, which means you know a little bit about all this stuff. I do want to talk to you about those mutations. People are really afraid that, yes, we might be getting our arms around COVID. We might see some light at the end of the tunnel. The vaccine is out there, albeit not as quick as what we'd hope and to as many people by now. But what is this with the mutations? Is this a whole nother thing we got to worry about? And is this something that means we're just going to have to live our lives this way forever?
So no, we don't have to live our lives this way forever. There is now a way out of pandemic, and it's called a vaccine. Mutations. Let me take a moment to reassure the public that mutations in a virus is completely expected. This is nothing that we did not expect, and it does not change any of the recommendations that we have been giving for the last 1 year, including how to prevent yourself, how to protect yourself, and how we go around treating patients or vaccinating general population. So what viruses do, they are very unique life forms. They have one and one purpose only, which is to make more copies of themselves to ensure their survival. And they do it so efficiently that they give up all other body functions. And because their RNA, their genetic material is so simple and their rate of division is so high, they don't proofread their genetic material very well when they divide and give rise to the next generation. So what happens is the mutations is normal phenomenon in virus. And when you have mutations, some mutations will make the virus weaker, some will make it stronger, some will make it more pathogenic, some will make it more transmissible. So what happens is when the virus has a mutation that makes it weaker, it does not have a survival advantage, it dies off. But sometimes with equal number of chance of probability here, you'll have a mutation which makes the virus more transmissible. And just by these mathematical odds, the virus which has more transmissibility will obviously become the more predominant virus in a population. And this is part of the reason why epidemics ebb and flow. The virus that was originally discovered in Wuhan was the original virus, novel virus, and then the one that spread to Italy, it was a little different, but still the same virus, had some mutations, then it spread all over the world. So every month you'll hear about new mutations. We don't look at it on a routine basis for clinical purposes because it does not matter how we manage an epidemic or an individual patient. But these are of epidemiological interest to us because that helps us recognize how transmissible virus is or how pathogenic it is. What we have discovered with these mutations is, yes, it may spread a little bit more easily, but it does not lead to any more severe disease. And the principles of infection control remain the same, and vaccines that we have now remain effective against these mutations.
Well, it's certainly got a lot of people's attention. Obviously, the first many of us heard about this was in Great Britain. Do you think it's found its way here? Do you think that it was bound to find its way here? Do you think it was carried here or it mutated here?
You know, absolutely. I think it would be wise of us to assume that this virus is circulating widely here already. We have already found it in 14 states. And remember, the only reason we found it in UK first is because they do a lot more whole genome sequencing, which identifies these mutations as compared to, say, any other country. And we do it too, but that's not the most important test we do, and it doesn't make any difference in our public health measures or clinical management of patient. And these tests are complicated tests which are not available at commercial labs. These are mostly done at academic or research labs. So by the time you find a virus, you suspect that this is maybe a little different, this may be a little bit more transmissible, and you send it to a academic lab or a research lab, and by the time they sequence their genome, you're already 4 to 6 weeks behind in defining that transmissibility or defining that mutation, and that's enough time for the virus to become widespread. So I would presume that this is now circulating in all the states, and it's possible that one of the reasons why we are having this surge is because partly because of this virus already.
So it's your belief that there's no question that the current vaccine program will take care of this mutation?
Yes, that is correct. So, Pfizer has come out and said that their vaccine neutralizes the virus. And remember, this is a small mutation in the spike protein. Overall, the spike protein against which the antibody is made through the vaccine, it's a complicated protein structure, and the basic fundamental structure of that protein is not altered. It's only a small mutation that helps the protein attach more more efficiently to the human body to infect us. So the basic fundamental of the protein is still the same, and the vaccine is expected to be effective against it.
So really what we're seeing here is one of the biggest concerns is just about the speed, how fast the infection can be.
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about, the antibodies. I'll give you an example of what I'm getting at. I have a coworker that came to work, and he was sick. He shouldn't have been to work, but he came to work, and he was struggling with a cough and those type of things. That coworker tested positive for COVID. Now, it didn't spread around the building. That's not my point at all. But many people after that, because they didn't get it, really believed that they had it. How big of a percentage, and I know this would just be a guess, but if people went in and tested for the antibodies, how many of those individuals do you think would find out they've already had COVID?
So that's a hard question to answer because, it varies by population and it varies by kind of exposure. But in general, we think that if you have like 15% of the population, another 5% would be asymptomatic. So, depending on which study you see, the rate of asymptomatic infection is about 25 to 30%. So let's say that North Dakota has 100,000 cases of COVID. I would expect another 20 to 25,000 people to have had COVID without them knowing it. And remember, we don't have precise measurement. These are guesses based on serological surveys or mass testing that we have been doing, and some of mathematical probabilities built into it. But as a general rule, we say that about 25 to 30% of the infections are asymptomatic. So it is not correct to presume that if you were exposed that you had an asymptomatic infection already. That's a false sense of security.
So, Doctor, I have a minute left. I know people that have refused to take the vaccine. I mean, I would take their spot any day and twice on Sunday, but the fact is they refuse to take the vaccine. Should they take the vaccine?
Absolutely, there is no question about it. People are most people who are haven't taken the vaccine when it's available to them are hesitant, not anti-vaxxers. So that's why we are rolling out these campaigns saying vaccine is safe, it's effective, and it's our only way out of pandemic.
Okay, Dr. Nagpal, thank you. I really appreciate it, and thank the folks at Sanford for making sure that everyone's available for information like this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Dr. Avish Nagpal, infectious specialist, disease specialist with Sanford. When we come back, Jason Matthews, adjunct professor, political science at Bismarck State College. Let's visit with Jason right after this.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
You know, every now and then you see a name pop up and you're like, man, this is going to be fun. I've known Jason Matthews for quite some time. He's an adjunct professor of political science at Bismarck State College. Let's bring him in. Jason, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks. Been looking forward to this.
All right. What did you see yesterday? What did you see yesterday during the inaugural that surprised you? Anything at all?
One thing that jumped out at me was that Joe Biden was the first president since Lincoln to use the word disunion in his inaugural speech. And the fact that an American president used that word shows how, over the course of the last 4 years, our politics have evolved, and society and our cultural differences have only become more magnified to the point that an American president had to use that term. I think he put it in the speech that our disagreements cannot lead to disunion. I thought that was profound.
You know, I was so happy they did it on the steps of the Capitol. After January 6th and those thugs that of the insurrection and the coup, I was so happy that the image was there, that what they saw was that they hadn't taken over the People's House. I mean, it was majestic to me, Jason.
It was. It was. The fact that, 2 weeks ago, just think of this. Somebody's going to write a history book someday, and they could just very easily title it 3 Wednesdays in January. Well, you had the insurrection, the impeachment, and the inauguration. It feels as though, in many ways, yesterday at noon, regardless of whether you voted for him or not, was almost the final passing of 2020 in many ways. 2020 went into extra innings, and the inauguration turned a page. But Biden has a hell of a challenge ahead of him.
He really does. And I got to tell you, a lot of people are going to watch this and they're going to steal your title. So start writing right now or get the trademark. I mean, 3 Wednesdays in January is perfect. It's going to stick with me long after we get a chance to visit today. When you first saw the people attack the Capitol, our Capitol, what did you think when you first saw that?
I thought it was the most predictable event that I can think of. I mean, it was shocking, but who didn't see this coming? I mean, we have had for 30 years now, we've been engaged in this cold civil war in this country. And it turned hot on January 6th. And I know what butters your bread as a radio talk show host, and you know as well as anyone that there's the incentive in the industry to generate anger, to get people angry. And now with the internet and the balkanization of our news, where we pick and choose news that fits our worldview, it was only inevitable that this was going to happen. That was my reaction.
Well, and you brought up talk radio, and I think that Jason, is totally legitimate. I think it's completely legitimate because it's a melting pot. It's not journalism. It's a place where people can go and they can have that conversation and get mad, and then somebody gets a chance to respond to it. I accept what you said there. But Twitter's different. I mean, Twitter is different. The President of the United States used the power of the presidency to make sure he lied, to make sure that he incited that riot. And so, what is your take on that? Because that is a form of media.
Well, it's become the dominant form of media. And I'm fearful that we may be entering into this era where self-government and technology are not compatible with one another. You are not able to put into context or use nuance in 150 characters. And social media has been weaponized. It's been weaponized against us by foreign actors, and it's weaponized against us by ourselves. And what happened with the 2020 campaign, there's no fraud. I mean, there's no widespread fraud. This was the argument I keep coming back to. You're making the argument that somehow or another the President of the United States was defeated for re-election by some vast conspiracy that just got Joe Biden into the presidency. But at the same time, Democrats were so good at it, they were unable to win control of the Senate, and they had to wait until January to do that. And, they only have it's 50-50, and they almost lost the House. I mean, it just defies logic. But what strikes me is the number of people who have bought into that theory, bought into that lie. And you also see that, too, on Twitter. Let's be equal opportunity here. At the height of the Mueller investigation, and you go and you take a look at Twitter, every little bit and morsel from that investigation were blown out of proportion on Twitter. I make this comparison that many of the progressives on Twitter are a lot like the conservatives on talk radio.
I'm going to throw this at you. You talk about it was predictable. That what you saw on the steps of the Capitol was predictable. I agree. The only thing that wasn't predictable to me was the force that was going to meet them, that they weren't ready for them, that there wasn't more Capitol Police, that there wasn't National Guard, because clearly the intent was there. Clearly they had been encouraged to do this. I mean, clearly Rudy Giuliani, Don Jr., and Don Sr. got exactly what they wanted. That's Joel Heitkamp's take. But I want to throw this at you. Who else bears that responsibility? And let me give you some examples. When you have leaders in this country, like United States senators, that don't come out and say that this was a free and fair election, when you have individuals that are paid for by the public in the form of attorney generals who have used their organization to pay for people's transportation to the Capitol and to encourage them to protest. And when you have members of the media, yes, talk radio here in Fargo, when you have people like Scott Hennon and others encouraging it, reporting on it, and the first thing after it happens saying that it was Black Lives Matter, aren't they culpable? Aren't they at some point considered to be a major part of this problem?
There's a lot of blame to go around. There's no question about it. I want to take it another step and go into another vein here. I love quotations, and one thing that I keep coming back to is this quotation by Churchill, where he said that you cannot negotiate with a tiger with your head in its mouth. And the way I look at it is that for 30 years now, Republicans have been riding a tiger. You know, that tiger with talk radio, with later on Fox News, what have you, that tiger has been able to deliver them a lot of votes. It's been able to deliver them control of Congress. It fueled the Tea Party. And as long as it was working out for them, the Republican establishment was content. But what happened in 2016 was that establishment was bucked off the tiger. And the tiger has had the Republican establishment in its head ever since. And on January 6th, it bit down. And what I look at it from the standpoint is you have many elected officials, many people in the establishment who are trying to placate and please, you know, because they're hearing and they're being wagged, if you will, by the anger and the base. You know, when I teach political science, I always tell students that political parties are supposed to be saucers that cool the passions of the people. They're supposed to be saucers, they're supposed to be filters, they're supposed to give vehicles in which people can express their passion. Politics has been all about passion, and that's what we've seen now for the last 4 years, and it boiled over.
Well, I would add this to that if you're Mike Pence, you know exactly what Jason Matthews just said, that for 4 years you can be the most loyal man in the world, and the next thing you know, on the mall itself, you encourage individuals to go down and basically do exactly what they did, which is to call for Mike Pence's head. That tiger was about to snap. And it's just, to me, was an exact example. It was the example of what happens when Donald Trump doesn't like you. When we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to get a chance to visit with the professor about where Joe Biden goes from here. What does he do with the power that he now has? So let's look to the future as we go down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's the Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
We're having a great conversation with Jason Matthews. He is an adjunct professor of political science, I might add, with Bismarck State College. Professor, I got to talk to you about this because we've talked about what happened, what got us to that inaugural and the 46th president of the United States. But what happens in the future? You're Joe Biden. You wanted it. You wanted it a number of times. I mean, you ran for president, 3 times, but now you finally have it. The ball is yours, and you're in the Oval Office. What do you do with it?
Well, he faces not one but 4 crises of the first order. You know, you have the pandemic, the economy, what he described as an uncivil war, but this cold civil war that threatens to provoke even more political violence, and then, of course, race. But first, foremost, and fundamentally, he has to get a handle on the pandemic. That's the bottom line. He has to get the Americans vaccinated, and he has to get stimulus in the economy. Just the fact that he could get vaccinations out there would show for the first time in several years that the federal government can work, that the federal government can do something. That in and of itself is a stimulus, but then he's got to get, and he's proposed a $1.9 trillion stimulus. He has to get that through a Senate that is 50-50. He'll get it through the House, but he has to get it through a Senate that's very divided. And this is where I think Biden has one advantage that his recent predecessors have not. We don't elect experienced presidents in this country by and large. We elect people who promise change, and we elect people who are outsiders. Joe Biden is the ultimate insider. He has those relationships. And the one thing that I think that is being underestimated here is that I think it's very hard. They'll try to demonize Joe Biden, but to know Joe Biden, in the words of one former Republican senator, is to like the man, to instantly like the man. And this is a guy who remembers Washington when there was consensus and when there was compromise. He's going to try that. Now, is he going to get anywhere with it? Here's where I come down on this. He's going to run into some roadblocks, no question about it. But there may very well be, and I think this is going to be a challenge for the Republicans, this temptation to overplay their hand. If he's looking as though he's coming at him with good faith and they're throwing up roadblocks against him, those white-collar suburbanites that left the Republicans and voted for Biden, they're not going to come back for the Republicans in 2022.
Well, let's talk about that because if, in fact, that's the case, if, in fact, he has to go back to the United States Senate and say, look, I can get the votes in the House, but I can't get them here. The filibuster rule, all of that could kill me unless we get rid of some of that. Doesn't that make Joe Manchin president of the United States? And for those of you that are watching, Joe Biden is probably the most conservative Democrat in a 1-seat majority that you could possibly have. He's from West Virginia. Doesn't that make Joe Manchin one of the most powerful men in the world?
Absolutely. When the Democrats took over control of the Senate yesterday, with Kamala Harris becoming vice president, I say that the power shifted from Mitch McConnell and shifted and bypassed Chuck Schumer and went right over to Joe Manchin and Chris Coons, Democratic senator from Delaware, who's a deal maker, along with Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins. Yeah. Those are the 5 right there that you need to be watching, because those are the 5 deal makers. I'd throw in Michael Bennet from Colorado in there. Those are the senators that really, I think, control the future of Joe Biden's legislative agenda when it comes to COVID relief.
So, I'm sorry, Jason. I was going to ask you about the agenda itself, and I was going to add this because, the Republicans have not always embraced a raise in the minimum wage. Joe Biden wants it. You were talking earlier about getting money into people's hands, getting the economy jump-started. There was talk about whether or not $600 was enough. Joe Biden and others supported $2,000, and there were Republicans that supported that. Mitch McConnell just wouldn't let them vote on it. You add the extra $1,400 in everybody's hands who makes less than $70,000, and then take in minimum wage. you got money flowing. I mean, you got money flowing. Do you think that that's feasible? Do you think it's doable?
I think additional stimulus is somewhat feasible, but I think that right on cue, you're seeing Republican legislators now, or senators and congressmen now shifting over, saying now we got to be worried about the deficit and the debt. So they're right on cue. I don't see any way in which he can get a minimum wage increase through in the COVID relief bill. Because I don't believe Senate rules being arcane. You'll have to ask your sister on this. I don't believe he can get that through with reconciliation. So I think that's going to have to be taken out, and it's going to have to be a standalone provision, which is then going to provoke a fight over the future of the filibuster, which as of today, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell in this power sharing agreement wants to take any attempt to get rid of the filibuster, reform the filibuster off the table. And apparently Schumer's playing hardball with that and is refusing to do that.
Well, I know that there's a lot of people who, when Mitch McConnell used it, it was no different than when Harry Reid used it. But the fact of the matter is sometimes you use it, and you use it when you really, really need to win. And I think there's going to be some of those issues where Joe Biden is going to say, even as a purist, or I don't know how you would describe him, you're better that way than I would, but as an old boy in the Senate who loves the Senate, I would guess that Joe Biden is going to come along kicking, screaming, and dragging. He's going to think we can find those 60 votes. So that's going to be quite interesting as the process goes forward. You mentioned earlier about, white-collar voters, potentially leaving the Republican Party if they see that the Republicans themselves have been just obstructionists, that they're not willing to govern. I'll take that a step further, because the people that you saw, the insurrectionists that attempted a coup upon this country are the Donald Trump wing of the Republican Party. And Donald Trump has been kicked off Twitter, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like being one of the most powerful voices in the country. What's a better way to do that than to start your own political party and use that as a conduit? Do you think Donald Trump's serious when he talks about starting the Patriot Party?
I think he is serious, but he's going to run into the reality that we're a two-party system. Everything is structured to the benefit of two parties. So this is going to be the problem that he's going to run up against, and it'll be fascinating to see how that pans out. But everything depends moving forward in the next decade, as I see it, as to what direction the Republican Party goes. The Democratic Party is having the same debate that they've had since the days of Roosevelt, and they have it on the left, the center, and the far left. And that debate is the role of government and how much government is too much government. All right. The Republicans, though, have this divide. And it goes back to really the insurgency of Pat Buchanan in 1992. And since 1992, there was always this nativist, populist, nationalist element in the Republican Party. And that always went to war with the establishment. And the establishment always won until 2016. And now Donald Trump has so defined the Republican Party, what you're left with is asking the question, what is the Republican Party for? We know what the Republican Party is against, but what is the Republican Party for? And that puts establishment Republicans, like a John Thune, for example, a Ben Sasse, a Mitt Romney, even a Mitch McConnell, puts them in a very difficult position. Because this is a party that, they're going to fight a civil war, and they're going to fight over who they are and what they believe in this post-Trump world. And Trump and his devoted following, they're not going to allow them to move back to business as usual.
Every president, after leaving office, becomes more popular than what they were when they left office. Does that happen to Donald Trump? 2 years from now, does the United States say, well, wait a second, he wasn't all that bad? And I mean, what happens with Donald Trump?
No, that's not going to happen to Donald Trump. I'm very confident to say that. President's Day is coming up, and C-SPAN will come out with their benchmark presidential survey of historians, and I have every reason to believe that Donald Trump will be near the bottom of that. Donald Trump was a divisive figure. It wasn't substance, it was style, and Americans tired of that very quickly.
Professor, I could do this all day. But you've got a job to do, and it doesn't mean we're not going to call you again. Just like Joe Biden, we've got a really good Rolodex. That shows you how old I am. How about a contact list? And so we're going to call you again and have more of these conversations. I appreciate it, sir.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Joel.
Jason Matthews, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, some closing thoughts for you. What should Joe Biden do? Let's talk about it when we come back right here as we go down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caneline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caneline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Well, we're coming to the end of our trip. We only got a couple more miles as we go down the road today, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what the president is going to do, in my opinion. The president is going to use those first 100 days to basically get as much legislation through as he possibly can, because the truth of the matter is, in 2 years from now, he probably won't have the House. The problem he has today with the Congress is the fact that of that very narrow majority that he has in the House, they don't all agree. They don't all agree one bit. You have the far left in AOC and the people that she brings with her, and then you have the far right in individuals that really don't believe Nancy Pelosi should be the Speaker of the House. And so how you bring that together, I don't know. I know this. If anybody can, it's Nancy Pelosi. She is one tough politician, and she has proven that year after year. That doesn't mean I always agree with her. In fact, I think if she was on with us right now, she'd say, I don't always agree with him. But the truth of the matter is she's very good at what she does when it comes to getting people in the same room, making them vote as a caucus. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Joe Biden can use that. I think in the Senate, it's a little bit different. I think that you have progressive Republicans, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. You could lose a Joe Manchin's vote and still get some of those other votes and push your agenda through. The $2,000, getting that out into people's hands, that should be done. That should be done right away. The raising of the minimum wage, I keep saying $15 just as a negotiating point. It's not going to be $15. I know that. Many of you that are viewing this know that as well, and you've been beating me up over it, whether it be on radio or in the comments that you make about TV. That's fine and dandy. Raising it is what needs to happen. Sorry, but I'd use the power that I have in that first 100 days to do just that. Joe Biden's going to be a popular president. Tough guy to dislike. I've met him a number of times, and he is everyday Joe. He is a lunchbox kind of a guy. This is a man that took the train home from Delaware all the time to be with his family. We'll talk about him a lot as we head down the road. Until then, good riding with you.